Copy.
Not hearing you.
Must be the ridge. Checking at the lot. All right. Nothing. 10 more minutes.
SPR 033 radio check.
Top 3, number 3. The Frequency, Olympic National Forest, Washington. The recording begins at 11:47 p.m. on September 8, 2021. Ranger Diana Voss is conducting a routine overnight patrol in the Quinault rainforest section of Olympic National Forest, one of the wettest and most densely vegetated wilderness areas in the continental United States. Her body cam shows the narrow beam of her flashlight cutting through mist so thick it looks solid, illuminating massive old-growth trees draped in moss that hangs like curtains from branches older than the nation itself. The audio is crisp, despite the moisture in the air, capturing every footstep on the soft forest floor, every distant drip of water from leaf to leaf. Voss has been a ranger for 11 years, and her voice carries the calm confidence of someone who has spent more nights in these woods than most people spend in their own homes. She's narrating as she walks, a habit she developed years ago to keep herself company on these solo patrols. Approaching mile marker 7 on the Quinault Loop, she says. No signs of illegal camping, no fire activity. Conditions are wet but stable. Visibility is approximately 15 feet due to fog. Standard September night out here. She stops to check her GPS and radio in her position. Dispatch copies and confirms no other rangers are in her sector. She's alone out here, miles from the nearest road, surrounded by trees that were ancient when Columbus first saw land. She's about to continue walking when she hears it. The first time it happens, it's so subtle she almost misses it. A low hum, barely audible beneath the constant drip of moisture and the occasional rustle of nocturnal animals. But Voss has spent over a decade learning every sound this forest makes, and this one is wrong. It doesn't belong. She stops moving. The body cam shows her tilting her head, listening. The hum is there, steady and unwavering, like a single sustained note from an instrument she can't identify. It seems to have no source, no direction. It's simply everywhere, vibrating in the air around her, in the ground beneath her feet, in her own chest. She keys her radio. Dispatch, I'm picking up an unusual sound at my location. Sounds like some kind of low-frequency hum. Any industrial activity in this sector I should know about? Dispatch responds negative. There's nothing within 20 miles of her position that would produce that kind of sound. No generators, no equipment, no explanation. Voss acknowledges and continues listening. The hum persists, constant and unchanging, and after a moment she realizes something that makes her pause. The forest has gone silent. The dripping has stopped. The small sounds of animal life that form the constant backdrop of a living forest have simply ceased. There's only the hum now, that single sustained note hanging in the air like a held breath. She speaks into her body cam, keeping her voice low. For the record, ambient forest sounds have stopped completely. This is unusual. Rainforest environments typically maintain consistent audio signatures throughout the night. Current conditions are... She trails off. The hum is changing. It's not getting louder exactly, but it's getting more complex. There's a second tone now, layered beneath the first, and then a third, and the three of them are weaving together in a pattern that almost sounds like language. Almost sounds like words being spoken just below the threshold of comprehension. Voss takes a step backward. Her flashlight beam wavers. The hum continues its evolution, adding more tones, more layers, building into something that fills the air around her like pressure, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. And then, as suddenly as it began, it stops. Complete silence. Not even the dripping, not even her own breathing seems to make sound in the vacuum left behind. She stands frozen, the body cam capturing her flashlight beam pointing into mist that seems denser now, closer, more solid. The silence stretches for 17 seconds. Then the forest comes back to life. The dripping resumes. An owl calls in the distance. Small things rustle in the undergrowth. Everything returns to normal, as if the last 3 minutes never happened. Voss lets out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. She keys her radio, and her voice is different now, stripped of that professional calm. Dispatch. The sound has stopped. I'm going to continue my patrol, but I'm requesting a partner for future. Overnight shifts in this sector. Dispatch acknowledges and asks if she needs immediate assistance. She says negative, she's fine, just unsettled. She continues walking, but faster now, her flashlight beam sweeping more frequently, checking shadows that seem deeper than they should be. She's maybe 50 yards from where she heard the hum when it starts again, but this time it's not everywhere. This time it has a source. It's coming from directly behind her. The body cam captures her spinning. Around flashlight raised, and for just a moment, maybe half a second, the beam illuminates something standing in the mist approximately 20 feet away. It's hard to make out details. The fog is too thick, the light too weak. But there's a shape there, a vertical shape, too tall, too thin, and it seems to be vibrating, oscillating at a frequency that matches the hum exactly, as if the sound is coming from inside it, as if the sound is what it's made of. Voss runs. She doesn't announce it. Doesn't radio for help? She just turns and runs through the forest, crashing through undergrowth, her flashlight beam bouncing wildly as she sprints toward the trail. The hum follows her. It stays exactly the same distance behind her, no matter how fast she moves. That complex layered frequency filling the air, those almost words pressing against her ears. She's running for 6 minutes straight before she reaches the trailhead where her vehicle is parked. She gets inside, locks the doors, and sits there breathing hard while the hum slowly fades into the distance. By the time it's gone, she's been sitting in her truck for 23 minutes. Her body cam is still recording. She's staring straight ahead, her face pale in the dim glow of the dashboard lights, and she's whispering something under her breath. The same phrase over and over. I understood it. At the end, I understood what it was saying. I understood it. She never files a report about this incident. The only reason this footage exists is because her body cam automatically uploads to a cloud server at the end of each shift. She deleted it from her personal files, but the backup remained. 3 months after this recording, Diana Voss requested a transfer to a ranger station in the Florida Keys, as far from old-growth forest as she could get. When asked about the reason for her transfer request, her written response was 4 words. I can still hear it. Current rangers in the Quinault sector report occasional audio. Anomalies during night patrols. Low-frequency hums that seem to come from everywhere and nowhere. The official explanation is geological activity or distant industrial equipment. No one has been able to identify the source. No one wants to look too hard. Top 3. Number 2. The Children, Big Bend National Park, Texas. The timestamp reads 2:34 a.m., March 15, 2022. The location is Big Bend National Park, over 800,000 acres of Chihuahuan desert along the Texas-Mexico border, one of the least visited and most isolated national parks in the continental United States. Ranger Michael Hernandez is stationed at a remote backcountry post near the Chisos Basin, monitoring for illegal border crossings and keeping watch over the vast emptiness of the desert night. His body cam shows the interior of a small ranger cabin, a single room with a desk, a cot, and radio equipment. Through the window, visible in the ambient glow of starlight, the desert stretches toward the silhouettes of distant mountains. Hernandez has been a ranger at Big Bend for 7 years. He knows this desert the way most people know their own neighborhoods, knows every sound it makes, from the yip of coyotes to the scream of mountain lions to the whisper of wind through creosote bushes. He's making notes in a logbook when he hears it. Children laughing. The sound is faint but unmistakable, the high-pitched giggling of young children at play, drifting in through the cabin's thin walls. Hernandez looks up, his pen frozen. Mid-sentence. There shouldn't be anyone within 15 miles of his position. There definitely shouldn't be children. He sets down the pen and moves to the window, peering out into the darkness. Nothing. Just desert, just starlight, just the distant shapes of Joshua trees standing like sentinels against the sky. But the laughter continues. It's getting clearer, more distinct, and now he can hear that it's not just one child, but several, their voices overlapping and interweaving, as if they're playing some kind of game just beyond his line of sight. He keys his radio. Dispatch, this is Hernandez at Chisos Station 7. I'm hearing what sounds like children's voices outside my position. Can you confirm any registered campers in my sector? Dispatch responds negative. The nearest registered campsite is over 12 miles away, occupied by a retired couple from Arizona. No children. Hernandez acknowledges and moves toward the door. The laughter is louder now, closer, and there's something about it that's beginning to bother him. The rhythm is wrong. Children's laughter should be spontaneous, variable, interrupted by words or cries or the sounds of play. This laughter is constant, unbroken, cycling through the same patterns over and over like a recording on loop. He opens the door and steps out onto the small wooden porch. The desert air is cold, the temperature dropping into the low 40s despite the daytime heat. His breath fogs in front of his face as he sweeps his flashlight across the landscape. Nothing moves, nothing is there. But the laughter continues. It's coming from the desert to his east, from a rocky outcropping maybe 100 yards from the cabin. He can pinpoint it now, can trace the sound to a specific location, and part of him knows he should go back inside, should radio for backup, should wait until morning. But he's been a ranger for 7 years. He's investigated stranger things than children's laughter in the desert. He starts walking. The body cam captures his progress across the rocky terrain, his flashlight beam bouncing off stone and cactus and the occasional startled lizard. The laughter gets louder as he approaches the outcropping, clearer, more immediate. He's 50 yards away when he notices something wrong. The laughter isn't just coming from the rocks ahead of him anymore, it's coming from his left as well, and his right, and somewhere behind him. The same laughter, the same cycling patterns, but now it's surrounding him on all sides. He stops walking. His flashlight beam jerks from direction to direction, finding nothing, illuminating empty desert and deep shadows and the ancient faces of weathered stone. The laughter continues, pressing in from every angle, and now he can hear something underneath it, something lower, something that sounds almost like words being spoken backward. He keys his radio. Dispatch, I need... His voice catches. The laughter has stopped. Complete silence. The kind of silence that doesn't exist in the desert, where wind and insects and animals create a constant low-level soundtrack, even in the depths of night. This is absence of sound. This is vacuum. Hernandez stands frozen, his flashlight beam pointed at the rocky outcropping, and for a long moment nothing happens. Then from somewhere very close, so close it might be right behind him, a child's voice speaks. It says his name. Michael. Clear and distinct and impossible. Michael, why are you out here alone? He spins. Flashlight. Sweeping. And there's nothing there. Nothing but desert and darkness and the distant outline of his cabin, somehow much farther away than it should be. The voice comes again, from a different direction, still sounding like a child, still speaking with that cheerful, innocent tone. Michael, we've been waiting for you. We've been waiting for so long. Will you play with us? And then another voice, another child, from somewhere to his left. The others got lost. The others couldn't find us. But you can hear us, can't you, Michael? You can hear us, and that means you can find us, and more voices now, overlapping, surrounding him. A chorus of children calling his name, asking him to play, asking him to find them, asking him to join them in whatever game they've been playing out here in the empty desert for God knows how long. Hernandez runs. He runs back toward his cabin, his flashlight beam bouncing wildly, the children's voices following him, staying exactly the same distance behind him, no matter how fast he moves. He's screaming into his radio, calling for help, calling for backup, but all that comes back is static, and underneath the static, the faint sound of giggling. He reaches the cabin. He gets inside. He locks the door and shuts the windows and piles furniture against every entrance and sits in the corner, with his service weapon drawn, and outside the children's voices circle the building, calling to him, singing songs in languages he doesn't recognize, laughing and laughing and laughing. This continues until sunrise. 4 hours and 37 minutes of children's voices circling his cabin, calling his name, inviting him outside. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't move. He barely blinks. When the sun finally rises and the voices fade into the morning heat, Hernandez is still sitting in that corner, his weapon still drawn, his eyes wide and unblinking. He's taken off his body cam at some point during the night and pointed it at the window, and for the last 20 minutes of darkness, it captures something that doesn't appear in any official report. Shapes outside the glass. Small shapes, child-sized, but wrong somehow, proportioned incorrectly, moving in ways that human bodies shouldn't move. They're pressing against the window, their faces obscured by the angle of the camera, but you can see their hands. Too many fingers, too long, bending at too many joints. Michael Hernandez was airlifted out of Chisos Station 7 later that morning in a state of severe psychological shock. He spent 3 weeks in a psychiatric facility before being medically retired from the National Park Service. He has never returned to Big Bend. He has never spoken publicly about what happened that night. Current rangers at Big Bend report occasional audio anomalies in the Chisos Basin sector, children's laughter in areas where no children should be. The official guidance is to return to station and wait until morning. No one is advised to investigate. No one asks why. Top 3. Number 1. The response. Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, Minnesota. The final recording is the longest and, according to those who have heard it, the most disturbing. It comes from the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness in northern Minnesota, over 1 million acres of lakes and forests along the Canadian border, one of the most remote and least accessible wilderness areas in the country. No roads, no vehicles, no permanent structures except for scattered ranger stations. Accessible only by boat or float plane. The recording spans 7 hours, from 9:17 p.m. on July 23, 2022 to 4:23 a.m. on July 24th. Ranger Thomas Aldridge was conducting a solo multi-day patrol of the eastern sector, traveling by canoe and camping at designated sites along his route. His bodycam was running continuously, as per protocol for overnight solo patrols in remote areas. The footage begins with Aldridge setting up camp on a small island in the middle of Knife Lake, a standard site he'd used dozens of times over his 14 years as a wilderness ranger. The camera shows him building a small fire, preparing his meal, logging his position with the satellite beacon that serves as his only connection to the outside world. The nearest other person is approximately 40 miles away. He eats. He makes notes in his patrol log. He sits by the fire and watches the stars emerge over the black mirror of the lake. At 10:34 p.m., he documents an observation. For the record, the silence out. Here is absolute tonight. Usually you get some loon calls, some fish jumping, something. Tonight there's nothing. It's like the lake is holding its breath. He says this casually without apparent concern. Strange conditions are normal in the Boundary Waters. The wilderness does what it wants. He prepares for sleep at 11:15 p.m., banking his fire and retreating to his tent. The bodycam keeps recording, showing the interior of the tent lit by a small LED lantern, his sleeping bag, his equipment, neatly arranged. He lies down but doesn't immediately sleep. He's reading a paperback by lantern light, some thriller novel, his face relaxed and calm. At 11:47 p.m., something changes. Aldridge looks up from his book. His head tilts, listening. The camera doesn't pick up anything unusual, just the same profound silence he noted earlier, but something has caught his attention. He sets down the book and sits up, staring at the wall of the tent, as if he can see through it to whatever is outside. A full minute passes. Then he speaks, his voice barely above a whisper. That's not possible. He moves to the tent's entrance and unzips it slowly, carefully, with the deliberate movements of someone who doesn't want to make sound. The body cam shows the darkness outside, the dim glow of banked embers from his fire, the black expanse of the lake, and sound. For the first time since he made camp, there's sound. It starts low, so low it's almost below the threshold of hearing, a deep thrumming that seems to come from the water itself. The lake is vibrating, he says, still whispering. The whole lake is vibrating. I can feel it in the ground. He's right. The camera's audio is picking it up now, that bass frequency that makes the microphone distort slightly, and if you look closely at the image, you can see the surface of the lake rippling even though there's no wind, even though nothing is disturbing it. Small waves radiating outward from the center of the lake, as if something impossibly large has just stirred in the depths. Aldridge reaches for his satellite beacon. Before he can activate it, the sound changes. The deep thrumming rises in pitch, shifts in quality, and becomes something else. A voice, but not a voice. Not really. It's the sound of a voice being constructed, being assembled from components that don't fit together properly. It's vowels and consonants and tones being arranged into patterns that approximate human speech without actually achieving it. And it's loud. Loud enough that Aldridge clamps his hands over his ears. Loud enough that the body cam's audio peaks and distorts. Loud enough that it seems to fill the entire world. It lasts for approximately 30 seconds. Then it stops. Silence again, but different now. Charged. Waiting. Aldridge's hands are shaking as he activates his satellite beacon, sending an emergency signal. The device confirms transmission, but he knows help is hours away at minimum. Float planes don't fly at night. He's on his own. Until morning. He begins to pray. Not silently, not internally, but out loud. The words of the Lord's Prayer falling from his lips in a steady, desperate rhythm. He's halfway through the second repetition when the voice returns. But this time, it's not trying to speak. This time, it's responding. To him. The voice from the lake begins to mimic his prayer. The same words, the same rhythm, but wrong. Twisted. Pronounced with sounds that a human throat shouldn't be able to make. And it's learning. With each line Aldridge speaks, the voice's imitation gets better, more accurate, more human. By the time he reaches, "Deliver us from evil," the voice from the lake is speaking in perfect unison with him, matching his tone, his pacing, even the slight tremor of fear in his delivery. Aldridge stops praying. The voice stops too. Silence. He's breathing hard now, his hands gripping his knees, his eyes fixed on the dark water visible through the tent's open entrance. When he speaks, his voice cracks. "What are you?" The answer comes immediately. The voice from the lake speaks, and this time the words are clear, perfectly formed, spoken in a tone that sounds almost exactly like Aldridge's own voice. "What are you?" An echo, a perfect echo, but delivered with inflection that suggests it's not just repetition, it's a question. It wants to know. Aldridge scrambles backward in his tent, putting as much distance between himself and the lake as the small space allows. His hand finds his bear. Spray, the only weapon he carries, and he holds it in front of him like a talisman. The voice speaks again. It's using his voice now, exclusively, but it's saying things he hasn't said. Things it couldn't know. "Thomas, your sister called the station last week. She wanted to know if you were okay. She's worried about you, Thomas. She says you don't call anymore. She says you've been different since Margaret died." Aldridge's face goes white. Margaret was his wife. She died of cancer 18 months before this recording. He's never spoken about it on duty. He's never mentioned her name within range of his body cam. There's no way anything in this wilderness could know about Margaret. The voice continues, still in his perfect duplicate, still coming from everywhere and nowhere over the black water of the lake. "Margaret says she misses you, Thomas. She says she's been waiting. She says the water is warm and dark and quiet, and you could rest here. You could finally rest. You could stop hurting and just rest. Thomas, Thomas, come to the water, Thomas." Aldridge is crying now, tears streaming down his face, the bear spray trembling in his grip. He's shaking his head, repeating the word "no" over and over, but the voice keeps talking, keeps using his voice, keeps saying things about his wife, about his grief, about the hollow place inside him that's been empty since she died. It knows. Somehow, impossibly, it knows everything. This continues for hours. The voice varies its approach, sometimes pleading, sometimes commanding, sometimes weeping in his own voice about how much it misses him. It tells him about Margaret's last days, details that only he could know, details that should be locked inside his memory where nothing can reach them. It begs him to come to the water. "Just come to the water, Thomas. Just take a step. The water will take the rest. You don't have to hurt anymore." At 3:47 a.m., something changes. The voice stops mid-sentence. The silence that follows is different, alert somehow, focused on something new. And then there's a sound from the water. Not a voice this time. Movement. Something large moving through the lake, disturbing the surface, coming closer to the island where Aldridge has made his camp. The body cam captures his face as he listens. The fear there has evolved into something else. Resignation, maybe. Or exhaustion. He's been fighting this thing for 6 hours, and he's running out of strength. The movement stops. The silence stretches. And then, from the shoreline of his tiny island, maybe 30 feet from his tent, something speaks in Margaret's voice. Tommy. It's Margaret's pet name for him, the one no one else ever used, the one that died when she did. "Tommy, I'm so cold. Won't you come help me? I've been in the water so long and I'm so cold. Please, Tommy, please come help me." Aldridge's face crumbles. Whatever wall he's been holding up collapses, and he begins to sob, great racking sobs that shake his whole body. He puts down the bear spray. He moves toward the tent entrance, and then his satellite beacon chirps. Incoming message. The sound seems to break whatever spell has been building, snapping Aldridge back to awareness. He reads the message, his eyes widening. Air support dispatched. ETA sunrise, hold position. He looks at the tent entrance, at the darkness beyond, at the lake where something is waiting, something that knows his dead wife's voice, his dead wife's words, his dead wife's nickname for him. He zips the tent closed. He moves as far from the entrance as possible. He sits with his back against the rear wall of the tent, and he waits. The voice calls for him until dawn. Sometimes it's Margaret. Sometimes it's his own voice. Sometimes it's sounds that don't correspond to any human language, frequencies that make the camera distort and the audio crackle. But Aldridge doesn't move. He sits with his eyes closed and his hands over his ears, and he waits for the light. When Satchamain, the float plane arrives at 6:15 a.m. The lake is silent. The water is still. There's no evidence that anything unusual occurred during the night. Aldridge doesn't speak to the pilot during the flight out. He doesn't speak to anyone for 3 days. When he finally gives his statement, he says only one thing: it's still down there. Whatever it is, it's still in the water. And it's patient. It'll wait for the next one. Thomas Aldridge resigned from the National Park Service 2 weeks after this incident. His current whereabouts are unknown. He has no phone, no email, no social media. His sister reports that he sends her a postcard every few months from different locations, always inland, always far from any body of water larger than a bathtub. The boundary waters remain open to the public. Rangers who patrol the eastern sector are advised to travel in pairs and to avoid camping on islands. No official reason is given for this policy. The recording from July 23, 2022 has been classified as a training document and restricted from public release. This transcript was obtained through unofficial channels. If you're reading this, you now know what waits in those waters, what listens when you speak, what learns your voice and your grief and the names of your dead. And somewhere in the depths of Knife Lake, something is waiting, something is patient, something is listening right now for the next voice to learn.